But first, my most half-hearted but first of all time. Oh, man, that sucked. Pittsburgh Steelers lost 35-25 to the Green Bay Packers in the second half, where the Green Bay Packers scored a touchdown in the first drive, touchdown the second drive, touchdown the third drive, field goal, and their last drive, they were taking knees and bleeding out the clock at what was formerly called Heinz Field, and now it's called Acrisure Stadium. By the way, Acrisure Stadium, since it was redubbed that, the Pittsburgh Steelers 2 games over 500 at home. So it clearly has not been the best home field advantage, to say the very least. Now, we'll touch on this, some of the stuff later. But so much of what fueled my skepticism about this team as a diehard Steelers fan coming into the season really started and ended with the offense. It started with an offensive line that I didn't think was very good. By the way, last night did not exactly ease those concerns. Micah Parsons worked the Steelers offensive line. Rashawn Gary did as well. Green Bay had their way with the Packers O-line, which I did have major concerns about. I thought if the Steelers receivers aren't able to get immediate separation, Aaron Rodgers is in trouble because he's older, he's 41, he can't extend the play like he used to, and Micah Parsons is going to have a field day, and Micah Parsons was fantastic. Anytime you're getting interviewed by Melissa Stark after the game, you probably had a good game on Sunday Night Football. I also had concerns about the run game. You know, with Jalen Warren, it's not about Jalen Warren. He is shifty, he is elusive in the open field. But can we create the holes for him? Well, not really. And I had major concerns about one Aaron Rodgers. Age 41, year 21, and 4 years removed off of his last, forget elite season, good season, 5 years removed from a playoff win. Gotta say, for a 41-year-old quarterback, behind a bad O-line, behind a limited receiving core, and hopefully Omar Khan does add a wide receiver too at the deadline, you look at his numbers last night, and really this season, it hasn't been bad. Now, again, the numbers to me are not indicative of how he's played in that. I think the numbers are slightly inflated because Aaron, to his credit, doesn't turn the ball over. But you see right there, 2 touchdowns, no picks. The second touchdown was kind of meaningless. The game was pretty much out of reach. 66% completion, 219 passing. Again, a lot of that came in garbage time. Pass rating of 101, but then the QBR, which is kind of the tell-all stat, it kind of judges. The QBR doesn't come out until hours after the game. Like, they look at the film, they see what went right, what went wrong, what should have went right and wrong. They take all those things, take into account your legs. 38 QBR for Aaron Rodgers, which isn't very good. But this season, would you know it, Aaron Rodgers has as many touchdowns as Dak Prescott. Now, do I think he's played even in the same galaxy as Dak? Yesterday notwithstanding, of course. Of course not. But all things considered, Aaron Rodgers has set up his into the bargain. For a 41-year-old quarterback, for reasonable expectations. I mean, if you're a Steelers fan, you expected Aaron to light the world on fire, then you're probably really disappointed. But that was never going to happen. And Aaron, by the way, and we'll see how this plays out because the Steelers are hitting adversity, so I have my doubts about Aaron's leadership. But thus far, credit where it is due. He's been good. He's been good with the media. He's been good with teammates. Even the one time where he sort of went after a teammate, I defended him on the show, and Broderick Jones tackled him at the end of that Bengals game. He's been good. He's everything that the Steelers possibly could have hoped he'd be. But the identity of the Pittsburgh Steelers, it is defense. It is hit you in the mouth. The steel curtain, right? And even recently, some of those great defenses led by James Harrison and company. Oh, man, Troy Polamalu. Probably my favorite all-time Steeler. I love Troy Polamalu. And now these days with T.J. Watt. And the highest paid defense in the National Football League. 5th consecutive year, by the way. Can we show the Pittsburgh Steelers defensive numbers this year? Because they're not good. 22nd in points allowed. 30th in yards allowed. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, the Pittsburgh Steelers are dead last in opponent pass yards per game. The effing Cowboys are better than us in that regard. 18th in rush yards per game allowed. 24th in yards per play allowed. 24th in third down conversion allowed. Second to last, 31st in opponent points per game in the second half. And when would you look at the defense thus far? Since 2021, Steelers have been the highest paid defense in football. In that span, they have ranked 24th, 13th, 21st, 12th. This year, the Pittsburgh Steelers of Mike Tomlin are the 3rd worst defense in all of professional football. That is the standard that this coach has created. That is the inability. Don't we talk about the two things that we talk about with any coach, any competent coach in any professional league? Two things, at least this is how I define it. Is your side of the ball good? And do you make adjustments in the second half? Look no further than the head coach of my beloved Golden State Warriors, Steve Kerr. Hasn't a hallmark of the Warriors dynasty been, man, they come out like game busters in the second half. Those third quarter runs, Steph is in shots, shimmying, Draymond's knocking your stuff in the third row, and man, they just got to roll, and they get out in transition, and it's over. Especially back in the prime Warriors days. I mean, they had 50-point third quarters against the Clippers back in 2017. That was their hallmark. Why? Because Steve Kerr made adjustments in the second half. Would you believe the Pittsburgh Steelers have been outscored by 34 points in the second half this season? Yep. Outscored by 34 points in the second half. Need I remind you, like I said last night, and I don't want to take any credit away from Green Bay. I may give Jordan Love a lot of love, in particular, in a few minutes. Tucker Kraft, all those weapons, they were great last night. But in the 5 drives where the Packers were trying to put up points, the last drive they were taking these. The 5 drives where Green Bay was trying to score. Touchdown, 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 field goal, field goal. And we talked about this last week in that game against Cincinnati when the Steelers gave up, you guessed it, 30 points against the Bengals. In that if the Steelers are not getting to the quarterback on a consistent basis, which, by the way, they blitzed all night long, still couldn't get to Jordan Love. If they're not getting to the quarterback, if they're not taking the football away, they're bad. The secondary is toast. You've got multiple old players on that defense. Guys like Jalen Ramsey, who got cooked again. Guys like Juan Thornhill and Darius Slay, who got slayed once again. Only young member of that defense is Joey Porter, and he can't stop getting penalized over the course of this season. Linebacking core, mid, can't really stop the run on a consistent basis. And some of this falls to the players. TJ Watt, what you doing, man? You're the second highest paid non-quarterback ever. Get to the freaking quarterback. Your contemporary in the AFC North, Myles Garrett, is getting to the quarterback 5 times yesterday. Not asking you to do that, but dang, what can we do something? Maybe he's getting up there in age. I don't know. Maybe that's what it is. But the problem with this Steelers team, the whole idea of this Steelers season, we're going to be aggressive. Aaron Rodgers, we believe, is an upgrade over Russell Wilson. Thus far, clear upgrade over Russell Wilson. We're going to spin for Aaron Rodgers. We're going to spin for Jalen Ramsey. We're going to spin and trade for and spend for DK Metcalf. We're going to spend all this money on defense. We're going to add a few stars on offense, or at least previous stars in the case of Rodgers. And oh my gosh, if we can win 10 games the last 2 years with Kenny Pickett, Mason Rudolph, Mitch Trubisky in 2023, and then with Justin Fields, Russell Wilson last year, shoot. Aaron Rodgers had what, 28 touchdown passes, something like that last year with the darn Jets? Hey, plug him into Pittsburgh. Here we go. As the hashtag in Pittsburgh goes on social media. And by all accounts, Aaron's held up his end of the bargain. I came into the season assuming, oh man, I'm going to be ripping Aaron week after week. Again, if you're going to get on him for not being able to extend plays, I'd say, yeah, he's 41. I don't know what to tell you. He's not mobile anymore. That's Father Time. So Father Time's undefeated. Aaron can't get out of pressure the way he used to. And by the way, he didn't have to as much in Green Bay because they had a great offensive line. Why? Because Green Bay prioritizes the offensive line. And it goes to show you, when you have a coach who has an insane leash, which Mike Tomlin has had, and we know Pittsburgh, as the famous stat goes, 3 coaches since 1969. Chuck Noll, Bill Cowher, Mike Tomlin. And we hear about this non-losing season streak, which we haven't heard that in recent days. I think people are finally coming to my side of the table on this and that. Yeah, that's a pretty meaningless stat, especially when your side of the ball defense is awful. Again, spent the most money in the NFL on defense. And you're the 3rd worst in the league. You are this year worse than the Dallas Cowboys in terms of opponent pass yards per game. The Cowboys. And we're going to be talking about the Cowboys defense later. Trust you me. We'll be talking about Dallas. By all accounts, Aaron, he'll make the occasional play. You saw it early to Roman Wilson, roll out to his right, off balance. It was like, whoa, there's vintage Aaron Rodgers. He'll do that. He did it a few times in the Bengals game. He'll do that once or twice a game. But you know what's happened with the Steelers defense that I've noticed? And I don't know, just because of the moniker of Pittsburgh, remember the Steel Curtain and some of those defenses in the 90s and the 2 Super Bowls in the 2000s. maybe it's, my buddy Tim talks about it, and it mostly applies in college football, but logo bias is like we look at logo and we just think about the greats, right? Maybe that will apply in the analysis. I hope not. I hope people actually watch the games and not just look at the logo as it relates to the Pittsburgh Steelers defense, because that's been their culture. That's been their identity for most of their history. But when we judge quarterbacks' performances, remember in week 3, Caleb Williams had a rough game yesterday. Caleb Williams torched the Cowboys defense. And there was one camp like, oh, Caleb's figured out. And there's another camp like, let's see. That was the Cowboys defense. Let's see how Caleb performs moving forward. And even for me last week, I thought Aaron was awesome. Thought he had his best game as a Steeler against the Bengals. But I said on the show, it is also Cincinnati's defense. Like, we got to take that into account. I mean, they gave up 39 to the Jets yesterday. Cincinnati's awful. Has been awful. We're going to have to include the Pittsburgh Steelers in that discussion. Where it's, oh yeah, in the future, Daniel Jones and Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson and Justin Herbert and the guys that Jared Goff and the quarterbacks the Steelers are going to play in the future. Like, oh yeah, they played well. But keep in mind, they also played the Steelers defense, and that's nothing to exactly write home about. Is the fact that you look at the Steelers' 4 wins this year, now you look at it and you're like, not great. You barely survived the Jets, gave up 30 points to them. Barely. If Chris Boswell doesn't save your bacon at the end, you lose that one. You lose to Seattle, a good team. You beat New England. Oh, look at that. Yeah, New England gave you 5 turnovers. You had no business in that game. They turned the ball over 5 times, twice at the goal line, and you still needed a game-winning touchdown to win the game against the Patriots. Week 4, you seen the Vikings? Almost lost that game, by the way, in the second half because of Tomlin's conservative coaching, not going for it on 4th down and punting it back to Minnesota. And then week 5, you seen Dylan Gabriel? Seen the Browns? Not very impressive. We are entering the heart of the most difficult part of Pittsburgh's schedule. Indianapolis next week. That could get ugly quick because the Colts have always owned us. But now with Daniel Jones and Jonathan Taylor doing what they're doing, yikes. Then you go to LA to take on the Chargers. Weirdly, I kind of like our chances in that game, but still. Then going forward, you still got the Ravens twice with Lamar Jackson back, presumably. You still got to play the Detroit Lions, and you still got to play the Buffalo Bills. And Cleveland with that defense is not easy. Especially if Shedeur Sanders is potentially in the lineup as opposed to Dylan Gabriel. Is that my preseason prediction of 8-9, first losing season in the Tomlin era? Looks like it might be coming to pass. And hopefully, if this season continues to go south, and the Steelers have already played the easy part of their schedule. They're done with the easy games. That's over. I mean, you got a Monday night game against Miami later in the year. Miami's bad and cold weather. You'll win that. Outside of that, no easy games the rest of the year for Pittsburgh. Not even Cleveland. That's a division game. If this keeps going south, I'm begging the Rooney family and Omar Khan, that ain't your guy. It's 2025 and he's coaching like it's 2005. Defense first. Hey, offensive line, take it or leave it. I mean, it doesn't really matter to develop a line to protect a 41-year-old quarterback, which, by the way, why do you have a 41-year-old quarterback in there to begin with? Nothing against Aaron. Aaron has not been our issue. But never forget, this is an organization. This is a coach. It's not an organization. It's a coach. Organizations enabled him, but the coach, who in 2019, this to me is the turning point in recent Steelers history. 2019. Big Ben's coming off. I think Ben might have thrown for 5,000 yards the year before. I forget. He had a big season in 2018, even if the Steelers missed the playoffs. Steelers start 0-2. Big Ben has a season-ending elbow injury. And so at that point, the Steelers could have said, okay, lost season. You're going to start Mason Rudolph the rest of the year, have the year play out, and that's going to be that. Have a losing season, we'll go get a quarterback. But nope. Mike Tomlin said, not on my watch. We got the one thing that gives me any sort of legitimacy as a half-decent coach in the league is that non-losing season streak. So we are going to trade our first-round pick for Minkah Fitzpatrick, who was a good player, but not worth a first-rounder. That first-round pick came from a draft that featured the likes of Burrow, Tua, Herbert, Hurts, Love. Feels like you could have used one of those guys, doesn't it? Just an idea, quarterback, one of the better quarterback drafts you've seen in recent years. Could have used one of those guys, but, this outdated defensive culture that, by the way, isn't even a defensive culture anymore. The 30th ranked defensive football. And by the way, let's just add this to the stat. Mike Tomlin, when his defense gives up 30 points per game, put up that stat. He falls to 7-44 in his career, 1-11 since Big Ben retired, and since the 2017 playoff loss to Jacksonville, 2017 to now is the stretch the Steelers have not won a single playoff game. 1-21. Speaking of winning playoff games, I believe we bring out this old graphic that I've used in months past. Can we show this one? Teams that have won a playoff game more recently than the Steelers, because it's a lot. Chiefs have won 17, Eagles 10, Niners 9, Patriots 7, Rams 7, Bills 7, Bucks 6, the Bengals in your own division 5, Jaguars, Saints, Texans, Packers, Ravens, Titans 3, Commanders, Cowboys, Falcons, Vikings, Lions 2. The Browns, by the way, it came against you in your own building, have won a playoff game, as have the Giants, Chargers, Colts, and the Seattle Seahawks. That's where we're at. Miss me with the Tomlin's a good coach thing. He's not. Not in 2025. At this point, he's nothing more than a good walking cliche. He's a great interview. At halftime with Melissa Stark after the game, he's great. Fantastic. He'll have a future in the media, and I think he'll crush it. But he's not a coach in 2025. Thanks so much for watching the show on YouTube, and be sure to go click that big red subscribe button and check out the other clips and full shows from Carving It Up Live, as well as our other incredible content creators here on the Grid Network.